Welcome, folks. This is our second love discussion with Let Our Voices Echo. I'm Jaha here with Lexi Godlewski. Just a little bit about her. She's a marketing and video strategist. Did I get that right?
Marketing strategist and coach.
Marketing strategist and coach. And I'm going to let you tell us a little more about what you do.
Well, first, thanks for having me. Super honored, super excited to be here. Yeah, I'm a marketing strategist and coach, which ultimately means that I help entrepreneurs really transform their lives and businesses in a soulful yet strategic way. So really helping them just close the gap between where they are and where they want to be.
All right, well that might tie right into our little topic here. So what we were doing here is just trying to have a little discussion about things in the world in a way that's progressive, in a way that promotes positive action in our communities and our society. I felt like you would be perfect because of what you do, so I appreciate you coming on, but let's just dive right into it.
Awesome.
Pretty much the topic today is going to be inclusivity and its relation to social issues in America, in relation to the progression or the promotion of love in itself, because that's what we're here for. And my outlook on inclusivity, I think it's important. I think it's crucial or essential. We can use a bunch of different words, but it's necessary. We've lived in this society for a long time with this idea that we're all the same, but we're different. And that's true. It's obvious. I mean, there's regional differences, there's, physical differences, there's differences all around, but we as a people, I think, as Americans, and I think this kind of goes and draws into a worldwide thing, I think we all have to be more inclusive in who we are as a human race. I think that's a big issue that we're facing in America right now. There's a lot of separation between, power levels in our power structure. You have people who feel or are put in positions where they're more important than you. And also we just have always had the issue of color or race or whatever have you. But our race, when you're born or raised here, or even if you gain citizenship here, it should never be a situation where you're not just American. You're so-and-so American, you're African American, you're Asian American, Mexican American, Caucasian American, whatever it is, you are something American, which that's not who we are. We're American as a whole, and we're finding an issue where we're being pitted against our own people, and I think that's, in a way, more detrimental to us than it could ever be positive, because we're sitting here fighting ourselves when ideally, if we just banded together, we would be able to, create something that is ideal for everyone. But I don't think it's easy for people to kind of sit next to you as I am right now and say, we're the same. You know what I mean? I think it's hard for people to do that. So just give me a little insight on how you feel about inclusivity when it's related to our society.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I love that we're having this conversation because as young people, especially, I really believe that this starts with us. And no matter your background, no matter what age you are, no matter what gender, no matter what race, it starts with each and every one of us. And it starts with that idea of love and that idea of not only loving others and spreading that love to other people, but also having that love for yourself too.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of stereotypes that have been placed on everybody and how they've grown up, where they've grown up. And it's time for us to really gain the self-awareness in ourselves to be like, all right, I have had these stereotypes placed on me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's who I am, and I truly believe that it starts with each and every one of us, because we could look outside of ourselves or point or blame or whatever we want to do to other people, but it really starts with that self-awareness in ourselves first, and really saying, where am I being someone who's excluding other people from the group, or how can I be the change here? What can I do differently, even if it's something small? You don't have to go out and change the world tomorrow, but even if it's just doing something small, and those little things really do make an impact and change the world. So for me, I truly believe that we are all different, but at the end of the day, we all want love. And like
Exactly.
that is really one of the similarities that we all have, is we all want to feel that sense of love, that sense of community, that sense of belonging. And it's those similarities that we can all come together on. Even though, you know, we do have differences on how we were raised and just our experiences, which of course is going to happen. But it's really bonding together in those things that are similar between us, which are the deep-rooted, like I said, love and community and belonging, that we can really come together and make a difference.
Yeah, and I think I wanna go off of what you were talking about. You know, the self-awareness. I think that's where it starts.
Yeah.
I think with us moving forward together as a community, as a people, you know, it really is only going to move forward once we know, I guess, within ourselves what we want to do. You know what I mean? We can feel like we want to do something, but until we're completely ready for it, I think that's with anything, it's not going to happen the way we want it to. So like with something like including other people and being more progressive in our action with, you know, just accepting people as brothers and sisters rather than like a completely different individual from you. I think to start, we have to kind of accept the fact that maybe there are things within ourselves that promote that exclusion, that we were taught, that are in our subconscious, that just make us go through our day-to-day lives in a certain way. So like in a previous discussion, we were talking about how like as children, you're kind of taught a certain thing about, I guess in a way of preparation about how you should go through life. So before you go out in the world, before I say like maybe going to school or, you know, to a sport, there's a level of preparation that's given to you by a parent that allows you to, I guess, work with other people, either your peers or adults. There's a level of, I guess, authority that you have to listen to. There's a level of, I guess, collaboration with people of like age that you're supposed to do, but that's all preparation. That's not given to you just from birth. You kind of are taught that at a very young age. And I think with that, this idea of inclusivity is something that also should be taught. Like you were saying, you know, we have our differences, we have our things that make us individuals. But with that being said, that should be something that can complement the next person, as opposed to maybe making you feel like there's like a hierarchy where somebody may be less than, or, you know, better off because I did this, or I'm doing this, or I came from here, you know what I mean? It should never be like that. It should just be something that complements the next person. Maybe I'm not doing that, but how can what you're doing help what I'm doing? And how can we do this together and move forward and create something that is so much better off for the next person than what we may have experienced growing up and stuff like that. I think that's important.
So tell me about a time that you personally, because I can think of some off the top of my head, like what are some times that you personally felt like you wanted to be included in the group and you were excluded?
I've already kind of given a little bit of background on myself, and like my experiences with a lot of these social issues have come when, you know, I moved up here from the city. And with that being said, it kind of came in my early relationships with people, like either friends, girls, whatever it is. It's just relationships that kind of broaden my horizons. So I'll give an example. I had an ex who, you know, she was white and whatever, and it was a family party that was like a Christmas party that everyone was talking about, and it was this big deal. You're gonna meet the rest of the family and all this stuff, and you know, I was allowed. So
pressure's already on you.
It's
in the
already
first place,
on me, but you know, I'm kind of good in pressure.
Right.
I feel better in a situation like that because at least I'm given the opportunity to prove myself. You know what I mean? I think a lot of what I do in my life is to prove that, okay, yeah, you see me. I look a certain way. I know this, but that's not who I am. You know what I mean? I am a person, I'm Jaha, and I'm confident in that fact, but give me the chance to show you who Jaha is. So, you know, we had this party, and, you know, everything else I had been included in and stuff like that, but this one party, I don't know, for whatever reason, it was like, it was a family issue where some people thought a certain way, and you know, they might say the wrong thing, so rather than being included, it's like it's better off to just not be there, you know what I mean? And I'm like, damn, that kind of it kind of hurts a little bit because I was young, you know, and I
Now,
had never
did someone tell you that's better to not be there, or did you just like kind of pick that up
No,
from
it
the
was
vibe
told
in
to
the room?
me. It
Really?
was told to me. It was said, you know, my parents would rather you just not come. And I'm like, okay, you know, it
Wow,
is
yeah.
what it is. And I was accepting of it because I kind of understood that I'm different. I understand that it might be hard to accept me being the one black person at your family event. It might be hard. I might have to ease my way into it. And that's something that I kind of, as a child growing up where I grew up, kind of came to terms with. It's like, okay, it might be a little harder for me to prove myself, but at least I'm going to try. With something like that, I was just, I guess, so naive to the fact that I am suppressing who I am as a person
Right.
for this situation where I felt like it wasn't the fact that I was excluded that upset me. It was the fact that, you know, I know that I'm worthy enough to be there, but it's like I thought we were cool. I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
And now you're saying to me, well, you know, there's certain people here that, but it's like, why is that the case?
Yeah.
And especially because the rest of the family knew who I was.
Yeah.
So I've already kind of proven myself to certain people. So why is it so hard to maybe vouch for me in a situation like
Yeah.
that? To be like, you know, it's not like that. He can hold his own and let it go. But like, you know, I'm not going to think that far into it. That's long in the past. But it's just a situation where, you know, maybe in an ideal world,
Yeah.
I would never have to experience sitting out for a Christmas party because it just might make people feel uncomfortable. It wasn't that I
Yeah.
couldn't handle it. It might make other people feel uncomfortable, which should never be the case. I'm not a type of person who would make somebody feel uncomfortable. And I don't think that's having to do with like race or color or gender or whatever have you. I don't think
Yeah.
that has anything to do with like with that at all. I think if you're the type of person who's going to make someone uncomfortable, it doesn't matter how you look. That's
Yeah.
just going to happen. But in a situation like a relationship or a friendship, you are so, I guess, in tune, I guess, is not the word, but like you're just involved in that person's life, whether it's your significant other or your
Yep.
friend or their families, you're involved where they should know a little better to know that, okay, well, this is a person that my child has chosen to be friends with or to be in a relationship with. So maybe there should be something given to my child to
Yeah.
say, this is a decent person, you know what I mean? And that's all that should be put to me. It's not, I'm a decent black person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm just a decent person.
Right.
And that, I mean, at the time, I was able to brush it off because it wasn't the first time I had dealt with something like that. So it got to a point where it was almost common enough for me to be like, all right, it is what it is. I can move past this. At least I get to date the girl. Or so, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but like,
Yeah.
it's just like different things like that. I look in retrospect and I'm like, wow, like I thought I had a decent perspective on life at that moment because I was able to have the mental fortitude to not let something like that
Yeah.
affect me. But what it did was it suppressed my feelings of being accepted as a human being.
Right, right.
And I was like, you know what? That's just what's going to happen to me. So
Right.
I got to deal with it as opposed to speak up on it. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to do these discussions because
Yeah.
you know me from growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm glad you're able to have this collaborative discussion with me about a situation like this because that might have been something you didn't know and we grew up
Right,
together. So
right.
it's like these things I kept within myself for a very long time, but now is a better time, or there is no time better than now to
Right.
kind of talk about these things because people need to have their perceptions opened up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did myself a disservice by kind of hiding behind, you know, being just okay enough with the life that I live because at least I was able to enjoy myself,
Yeah.
that I kind of accepted certain things that happened to me. But like, honestly, moving down south was a big thing that helped me kind of
Yeah.
gain perspective on who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Living with my roommates and stuff like that, I was just able to gain the identity that I thought I had. But my identity was given to me through other people growing up where I grew up, that now who I am as a person is just me. I'm Jahab.
Yeah.
That's who I am. If you don't like me, that's fine.
Yep.
but it's not going to be because of what I look like. It's not going to be because of maybe what you think I act like. It's going to be because I said what I said. I gave you who Jaha is as a person. Now you're giving the opportunity to accept that, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And I think that as people, we just have to be confident enough within ourselves to be able to go out and do things like that. You should be confident enough with Lexi to say, listen, I'm going to do me. I'm going to promote who I am and my business and everything that I stand for as a person. You can get with it or you can get gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think that'll allow us to kind of be more inclusive, because it's not going to be about the group. It's not going to be about what this person looks like in comparison to the next person. It's going to be about the individual. You as an individual, Lexi, or you and I as Jaha should be able to work together no matter what. It doesn't matter who we are, where we came from, what we look like, what age we are. If you're able to give me like-minded, I guess, experiences or even values that I can use towards a common goal, that's all that I'm worried about. You know what I mean?
There's a few things that came to mind when you said that, and one of them is like, I've experienced this as a female in entrepreneurship, is that whole idea of having to prove yourself, and that's toxic in and of itself.
Absolutely.
That you even in the first place feel like you have to go out there and prove your worth. Like, no, you're born and you're here, and like that already makes you worthy. That's it.
That's it.
And it's as simple as that. And yet we take that on and we think like, oh, I have to like prove that I'm a good person. I have to prove that I'm a good daughter, a good entrepreneur, whatever it is. And it's like, no, you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Absolutely
the more
not.
that, and I love what you said about really just being a strong advocate for yourself as well, because I think so many of us, and speaking as a female, like especially females, like we're not taught how to do that. Like we're taught how to just like
submit.
And go with the flow.
Yes.
Don't speak up, because then you're gonna cause like drama, or you're gonna
and you don't need that, not as a lady.
I know. I know. But then also what I learned is like, if I can't be an advocate for myself, how can I be an advocate for one of my friends when things like that happen? You know, if I don't know how to speak up for myself and not feel like I have to prove myself, like how could I do that for one of my friends who needs me to step up and do that too?
That's a good point.
That's
a good point. And I think that is a great thing to bring up, because right now we have a very weird climate where there's a lot of issues, and I think there's issues kind of taking precedent over other ones. But at the end of the day, we just need to kind of address all the issues as a whole. And I think one of the issues is being a female in America as well. It's like it's a very similarly oppressed group where you, the same way as myself, feel like you have something to prove to somebody. It might not be the same thing, but you have something to prove just because you almost feel like there's a disadvantage given to you just being the person that you were born to be. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we can kind of complement each other, going back to what we were saying in the beginning about being inclusive, because there's a lot of people in this world that have very similar, not the same, but very similar experiences that you're not allowing yourself to or allowing yourself to kind of absorb, because you're not even putting yourself in line with that person, because you might feel like, I need to exclude myself from that group. But that's doing yourself a disservice, because it's like missed opportunity at that point, because you felt like, okay, they might not accept me in that group, or maybe I don't want to accept that person in my group, or I don't want to accept what that person has to say because they might not be as well versed or have the same, I mean, let's put it this way, as far as degrees go, or like you might not listen to a person without the master degree on a topic that may require more knowledge, but it's like, okay, maybe I don't have as much knowledge as you because of the studies, but I should be able to offer my perspective and help at least a little bit and not be dismissed completely. That's a specific situation, but I think the dismissal of other people because of this weird like social system of hierarchies and everything like that, I think that's where we are messing up as a society, but as people, because you're giving credit to people just because of like, I guess, credentials, but there's a lot of voices that are being unheard because you're not giving them the same, I guess, respect as the person maybe who is a senator, or maybe a professor, or maybe, I don't know, a business owner. It's like these different things that you have that maybe put you in a different light than I don't know, somebody who's living on the street.
Right.
They could very well have a good
Exactly.
conversation with you, but you're not allowing them to do so because there's this weird stigma against certain people.
And it comes back to like what you were saying of the subconscious conditioning as well. And can we just talk about for a moment how toxic it is that we do put other people on a pedestal just because they're different from us in some way? It can be any way of gender, of color, of status, or how much money they have, or like how far ahead of you. Like I catch myself doing that all the time with my role models because I'm like, oh, like they're so far ahead of me, like, and I put them on a pedestal, and I've been the one that has to catch myself and be like, no, like we're all on the same playing fields, we're all in the same game. Like, granted, people have different like starting points, but that doesn't make someone more worthy than another person or more I don't know, better than someone else. And it's really like I've been continually just catching myself on that and like bringing it back to like, no, like we all are worthy of whatever it is that we want. And that it's just like so toxic that if you have a different skin color, then you're better than someone else. Or if you are a different gender, you're better. Like that is so just like old school toxic stuff that like we need to cleanse out of our system. Because it starts with us, and it starts with like once we have kids one day, teaching our kids, you know, differently than our ancestors and generations have taught us, you know. But it starts with us like really cleaning that out of our system, to realize, just like what you said, like the homeless person is no different than the CEO, at the core level.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
They might look a little different, but what they have to offer the world might be the exact same thing. They just weren't given the same, I guess, opportunities.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And going back to what you're saying about how toxic it is, this is in any form of, I guess, human life. We have this weird system of you can work your way up and get yourself to a certain level. And in some lights, that's true. Like that, I mean, in the corporate world, you do that. That's what the point of the corporate world is. You're gonna work your way up and get yourself to a certain point where maybe you are the CEO. But in life, like I can speak specifically on myself. I've lived a lot of my life, like in my youth at least, where I was always put on a pedestal because of the type of person that I was. And I'm not gonna say I'm very different now, but I listened a lot to what people wanted of me. So I was obedient in a sense that it was easy for people to like me because at least I listened. You know what I mean? So I was almost like put in a place where he's the image of what you want people to be kind of like, because he's listening to what we want. So it was hard for me to break that because on the same token, because I was kind of put on a pedestal just growing up, people always speaking very highly of me, it went to my head, and now I think that I am kind of in a position where I can, I guess, dictate how other people are living because I've always been put up here, you know what I mean? So it's like I might pass judgment on somebody, and like this is about going back to the homeless person. Like I had a college roommate that gave me this perspective. One day I was at a gas station, and I had a guy. I don't know if he was homeless or not. I just know he was asking for money. And this was me kind of almost breaking out of the New York mentality, like I'm down south and stuff like that. And I look at this guy, I'm like, so much of that upstate, like so much of that where I come from, I'm gonna dismiss this guy, right? And my roommate, he's like, but who are you to decide whether or not this guy deserves, like, if you're in a position to help, who are you to decide whether or not you know they're going to go and take your money and use it for something you don't want them to use? Who are you to decide? This, whatever, $2 that I had in my pocket could have been this guy's last meal. Who am I to say I'm better off than him to say, no, you're not going to have my money. You know what I mean? And at that point, that's how I kind of went forward. I'm like, I am in no position to say I can't help you, I'm not going to help you. If I'm in a position where I know I might have something in my pocket that I can give, even if it's not money, if it's not monetary, if I can give you like a blanket or a bottle of water, that I think is my duty because I have it to give. And I don't know, if I was ever in a position like that, I don't want somebody to look at me and be like, oh, he's gonna go and do drugs. You know what I mean? Like, what? No, I want to eat. You know what I mean? But like to as a human being to think that I am so better off than this guy coming up to me with a cup, like that's not okay. But like that is ingrained in us from the very conception of life as or as Americans at least, because you have in our workforce, you have, I guess, certain jobs that have authority. That's just what it is. You have your cops. You could say, I guess, your politicians. Or let's not just say cops. Let's say emergency workers. There's an authority there. You have politicians who have authority. So at the core of that, you're almost put in your mind, okay, maybe I should work there because then I'm going to be ahead of the next person. So maybe I want to be the president, or maybe I want to be a police officer, because now at least with that badge, with that suit and tie, I'm automatically going to be considered better than that person. So that's like something that's put into us at a very early age. And there's always this system of hierarchy where, like, even in high school, you have your popular, or you have your captains, or you have your class president. You know what I mean? So it's like you have this system that's put in place that may automatically put like people ahead of each other. So it's like, in order to, I guess, thwart that moving forward, like after the adolescence and stuff like that, how do we thwart that? I think it's just by getting rid of it early on. We can't say that, oh, that kid's fast, so they deserve the first place trophy. You know what I mean? Like, given it's sports, like it happens, but like that is all ingraining in us that somebody's better than the other.
Right.
So how do we like change that as a whole? I think that's the real problem here with inclusivity and stuff like that, and love. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of this idea that there's only 2 true emotions?
I've heard of that, yes.
Yeah, so one is fear and the other one is love. And then all of our other emotions kind of lay in a scale, but at the end of the day, we have 2 core emotions, and that's fear or love. So anytime that you are in that place, like you said, when that person came up to you and asked for money, anytime you're in that place of that egoic of like, maybe he's gonna go do drugs, or she, or maybe they're just trying to do whatever, blah, 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 we're in fear. And it's in those moments that we have to catch ourselves and bring ourselves back to love, because the loving person would say, you know, I don't have even $2 on me, but like you said, I have this blanket in the back of my car. Take that.
Whatever I can do.
Whatever I can do. And so it's in those little moments that happen in everyday life that we have to be the ones to bring ourselves back to love. And when we do that, that's where the change happens.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good place to end off. So I appreciate you, Lexi,
thank you so much,
for coming on and having this discussion with me. We're going to have many more, but thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And wrap.